Hello, I'm Michelle O'Neill from Cherry Tree Equine. Now, I've been asked to give you a virtual demonstration, and today what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a virtual demonstration on affordable trail items that anybody could set up at home. So, you know, it doesn't matter whether you're into working equitation or you just want to have a bit of fun with your horse. There are so many different things that you can create at home that will cost you basically nothing, and that you can then use to groundwork your horse on or ride your horse over and have a heaps of fun and work on your training without having to go anywhere and keeping your training interesting. Now, today we're on our trail course at home, and I'm not going to show you everything on the trail course. We're not going to go through the gate or over the bridge or anything like that, because everyone knows about those things. The purpose of this demonstration today is to show you some of the other stuff that we have set up here that cost me next to nothing, and yet I use all the time with training horses. So what we'll do is we'll show you each of the items as we go along, and then I'll show you very briefly how I use it. Now, if you want to learn more about how you use these items and sort of some of the exercises you can do around them, you can go to our YouTube channel, and there's videos for each of these things. So this is just a summary, and if you want more in-depth videos on how we use these items as training tools, then go and check the YouTube channel and you will be able to see it all there. So today I'm going to use Bob as my model. Bob's a 4-year-old gelding that we bred here. He hasn't done a great deal yet, but he's getting there. And the first thing I want to show you, and Charlie can zoom in and show it to you, it is essentially 2 pieces of off-cut rubber and a log. Okay, so think about it. Here we are, we're simulating something that is just a bit different. Okay, the horses have to go over it, and you know, that rubber will move if they don't carry themselves correctly. They have to step over the log, and it is amazing how many outside horses that come here actually have trouble going over this for the first time. Okay, now Bob has obviously seen it before, but we'll just step him over it. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to use everything that I have done in my lunging training. Okay, so I'm going to ask him to travel on a circle, I'm going to ask him to be bent and flexed, I'm going to ask him to disengage when I want to stop. I'm going to use all that, but I'm just going to put an item in front of him. Okay, so if we go around again. Now, because the rubber is not secured to the ground, if Bob doesn't carry himself correctly, or if he rushes, the rubber will actually move. Okay, so it's really important that the horses are balanced and are carrying themselves correctly when they go over it. It's also important they pick their feet up. As you can see with Bob, he's a little casual. Okay, so that is our first inexpensive item that you guys can create at home, that you can have some fun with, and you can use to further your training with your horses. So, you know, as you saw, Bob already knows how to lunge, he knows how to disengage, he knows how to do all that. So now what I'm doing is I'm putting an obstacle in front of him that will make him think about what he's doing, make him think about using his feet, and therefore it adds a degree of challenge, and pretty quickly you'll find out if there's any holes in your training. So we're progressing around our trail course with Bob, and now I am at our logs, and you will see I've got a small pile of logs here, and I've got a log here and a log here. Again, this is all about the stuff that you can use that costs you nothing, okay, to have some fun with and help advance your horse's training. So this, again, just like the first exercise, it's about working on my horse's lunging technique. But, you know, I'm using a little bit of athletic ability at this point. Okay, I'm getting my horse to pick himself up and move himself. So if we get Bob moving, so he's got it, step over. Now, you know, this horse is not going to make an Olympic show jumper. I'm not expecting him to do amazing jump work. What I am asking him to do is just to move forward over an obstacle, okay? But maintain all his flexion and balance that we have worked on. Now you guys probably see there he wanted to move off a little bit, and even here he's wanting to move off. So I might put a change into him, ask him to step off. Now I'm going to work my way up to the top log. So you can see I'm starting to move my feet. And what a lot of people tend to do when they're lunging their horses is they tend to just stand in one spot. Whereas I'm really big on being able to move my feet and my horse to keep working with me. I don't want to have to stand in the one spot every day. Okay, what I want to be able to do is move around. So you guys can see I'm just randomly picking patterns over the 3 logs, but all that I'm doing is asking Bob to keep his body balanced and to keep moving forward, and also to listen to me. You know, and you can make this as hard as you want. You can ask your horse to step faster. Okay, you can do more changes of direction. You know, it's completely up to where you're at with your horse and where your horse is training at. Now you might decide to go through the middle of these logs and ask him to step back over that one. You know, if he makes a mistake, it doesn't matter. There's always another log in front of us where we can practice again. So again, if you're doing this kind of stuff, it's really important to make sure that you have your foundation set up to start with. So it's important to make sure that your lunging is really effective before you start playing games like this. But you know what? You might go have a go at this and you might go, oh, gee, my horse hangs out, or my horse runs off over jumps. My horse doesn't change direction in time to make the next jump. So then you go back to your foundation work, go back to your lunging work, and work out what you've missed in your training program, and start with that, fix it, and then come back and test yourself. These are like mini assignments, okay? These are where you step it up just that tiny bit beyond training, but there's no pressure because it's still training. It's just it's training with a little bit more advanced skill level required. And if it goes wrong, you just go back to basics, fix that, and then come back to this again. So as we work around our trail course, the next exercise we're going to have a play with Bob is what we call the crowding exercise. Now you guys can see I obviously paid a lot of money for this log, okay? So it was here before I was. So basically when I built the trail course, it was the first thing that was here. And all this is the tree had split and this was here. We chainsawed off a little bit here that stuck out, okay? And I have the perfect obstacle for doing the crowding exercise. So I'm going to show you how this works. So the crowding exercise is basically about getting your horse being comfortable in confined spaces. Okay, so as we've said previously, we're not going through these exercises in detail here today. I'm just basically showing you them, and then if you want more information, go and check out our links, our YouTube channel, our website, and you will be able to find more in-depth information on these. Okay, so I don't know if you can see, but all I'm doing is asking Bob to walk through the gap between the log and myself quietly and calmly. Okay, now I am slowly creeping closer, so the gap between Bob and I is shrinking. Okay, so he has to get closer to me, closer to the log each time. Now you guys can see he's not super comfortable with this. Okay, he doesn't particularly love this exercise. He gets a little insecure about feeling that being in that small of a space, but that's okay. Over time we could keep working on this and we could get this better. Okay, but that's just the basic exercise again with our very expensive log that I've paid a lot of money for. And you know, you can work on getting your horse ready to go out on the trail or go out to competition. You know, all those places. Often when I go away competing, I have to go through tiny little gates. You know, things like that. The horses are already happy to be in a confined space, so I don't have the problems that other people do with them freaking out and panicking and trying to get out of there. Most of my horses are quite happy to go through confined spaces because they've done exercises like this at home. Okay, so the next stop on our trail course tour is my box. Okay, so here we have 4 logs. Now, these were quite literally fence posts that were pulled out at some point, and I pilfered them and put them into a square. Okay, now there's 2 different exercises I do off this, but please, like with everything we're showing you today, remember these are just the exercises I use. You might think up something else that you want to use this sort of stuff for, okay, and that is awesome. Okay, but this particular square, there's 2 ways I use it, okay, and both of them involve lunging. So the first one that we do is I keep my horse moving forward, but every time I have to go past where I crossed last. So if I cross those 2, I have to get around and get to the next 2. Okay, now you can see when I start moving now, I have to start taking bigger steps. You can actually see Bob reacts a little bit to that. Okay, and it was a bit like when we were doing the other logs previously. I was saying, you know, horses tend to think that they get trained that when we lunge them, they don't have to move. It's just a continuous circle. Whereas I want my horses to not be worried about the fact that, you know, I might have to take some big steps to get across here. I want him to continue on as he was. And you can all see he gets a little faster, okay, because he sort of goes, oh, I'm not real sure about you walking faster like that. But that's okay, you know, he gets there, okay, that's what I'm looking for. Now the second thing we do with this little square involves a lot more changes of direction. So I'll put him through once. Now if he goes through here, what I want him to do is I want him to change, and I want him to get across to the next set of rails, and then change, and then get across to the next set of rails, and then change, get across to the next set of rails, change, get across to the next set. Now you can break this up, you don't have to keep going. You might go round and do a loop like that and pick another square that you're going to use. Okay, so now I need to get back up to this set. Now you can see he has to be pretty light and responsive and not get wound up about things to make these. Okay, if you have a horse whose groundwork is not super well established and you start doing these kind of exercises, pretty soon they will get pretty wound up because there's a bit of pressure to make that big turn there. He has to really get on his hindquarters and get a long way across. Okay? And you know, he has to work pretty hard to do that. But that is just 2 exercises that we have gotten just from putting 4 posts that we pulled out of the fence line somewhere in a square. It's pretty simple. So our second last stop on our trail course tour is our 3 tyres. Now again, these were throwaways. Okay, one of the local farmers was very happy to donate these to my cause, and all they took was a little time and effort to actually dig them into the ground. Okay, so if I could give you a piece of advice, make sure they're dug into the ground well, because if they're not, they can be dangerous. Okay, so now you can see there's a fair gap between the first 2 and the second 2 are closer. Now the idea is that you start where the tyres are further apart, build your horse's confidence, a bit like with the crowding exercise that we were just doing. I didn't start standing right up close to the rail, okay, I started further away. So same thing if you've got a horse that's never done this, you start a bit further away, and then when they're comfortable with that, you can go to where they're closer together. So then if you get really smart, you can actually stand on the tyre and lunge them around. So we're going to just put Bob through. Again, I'm just going through the basics of the exercise. So you can see Bob is really relaxed about that, okay? You can see he walked through there like it was just nothing. And that's what you're looking for, okay? So we want him to step through, be nice and calm. His reward for doing it nice and calmly is I disengage him and he gets to stop. If he was to rush through there, I'd put him back through again, okay, and just keep repeating a few times until he showed me some degree of relaxation, okay. So if we send him around again, that's pretty good. Let him stop. Now, in a minute, I'm going to actually start to keep him moving, okay? Because as you can see, Bob has done this before. He's comfortable. You know, if he'd never done this before, I might let him stop and think about it, but he's super comfortable with it. So I'm going to keep him moving. So I might stand in the middle here and put him out there. Now you can see he went a little wide then. Put him back through again. So, you know, we've been talking a lot in this demonstration about moving your feet and how, you know, horses have to be comfortable with you moving your feet when you're lunging them doing different obstacles. Well, with this one, they have to be particularly comfortable with you moving your hands, because you can see I have to pick my hand up to get over the tyres. I have to pick my stick up to get over the tyres. So if Bob has any holes in his training as far as that sort of stuff, it is pretty quickly going to show. Okay, so we'll send him back. Okay. You can see, like, I might step back here and go, okay, now go through that one. You know, you can start to use your imagination with this. Once your horse is comfortable with it, you guys can see, like, Bob's not 100% comfortable with it. He's probably wondering why I'm talking so much, because, you know, he's only a young horse and he hasn't been anywhere, and I haven't used him for any clinics or demos, so he's never had to deal with me doing this sort of thing before. But you know what? It's not a problem. If he gets wound up about it, you know, we're just going to do it until he relaxes. You can see I'm starting to move around a bit. And if you get a horse that is reactive and you start moving around like this, pretty soon they'll let you know that they're not happy about it. But you know, like I've said previously, you know, if you're going to do this kind of stuff, you have to make sure that your foundation is in order first, okay? So, you know, if we'd done this and Bob had run off across the paddock somewhere, I'd go back and do some basic lunging and get him happy and contented with that before I came back and did some more of this. So the last stop on our trail course tour is our tyres on the ground. Now you can see here I've got a quite large tractor tyre, and then over to my right there's two smaller tractor tyres. Okay, so you know, this is where you can use your imagination a little bit. You know, you can start out by getting the horse just to walk over a little one. Okay, that's a little bit more of a challenge because it's narrower and it's smaller and it takes a little bit more control. The big one is obviously quite often used to get horses to stand on. Now, of course, the thing is with these sorts of tyres is, and you guys can see there's movement under that. Okay, they take a lot to fill, and this, you can see it's still a bit rocky and there's a bit going on. You know, we're still working on getting this, so you know, I would fill it more again very shortly and sort of cover those rocks over. We obviously used rocks and dirt to fill it because that is a pretty large area, and Charlie will tell you it takes a lot to fill that tyre. So, you know, we want to make it as easy as we can. I mean, you know, I'm talking about making this stuff free, okay? I'm talking about the fact that, you know, someone gave me the tyre and then, you know, we had the rocks and the dirt here. You know, you could go and buy a load of blue metal, okay, or something like that and fill it. That's not a problem, okay? But this is just what we did it with. I personally, it's a personal thing, don't like carpet on them. But that's just me. You might be quite happy to fill it and put carpet on it. I would rather fill it and leave it as is. Okay, so now we'll ask Bob to step over it. And like when your horse gets to where, well, they have done a bit of this, you know, like you can see Bob's pretty keen to get up onto that tyre. He knows that the tyre means rest. Okay, And there's a reason why I wouldn't do this as the first exercise for the day, okay? But yeah, because Bob has done a lot of this, he knows that when he gets the tyre and he stands on the tyre, he gets to stand there. I can tell you he didn't start out like this. So if he walks off like that, we just go forward. Okay, we just go around and go woo, and give him another opportunity to stand there. If he stands there, his reward is to do nothing. You guys can probably see his right front foot is moving, the tyre is sagging underneath him. I think that's not a bad thing. You know, it teaches him that, you know, the ground might not be what he thinks it is. Now, I didn't ask him to move off. Okay, so I'll trot him around. I'll say woo, woo. There we go. So not only am I working on controlling my horse's feet doing this sort of exercise, I'm also working on my voice cues, okay? Because he has to listen to me when I want him to stop on that tyre. And, you know, at the start, he'd only put 2 feet on the tyre. You know, we've progressed to where he'll happily stand with 4 feet on the tyre. And that's what we're looking for, okay? I want him to stand up there and be as happy as Larry, and, you know, just be comfortable about it. You guys can all see how comfortable he is about it. Now, just because he hasn't done this before, so let's go to the small tyres. You can see I'm going to lunge him around. You know, in these small tyres, there's a few different things you can do with them. Okay, like you can lunge your horse between them. I mean, I could put a rail between those 2 tyres and use it like a little jump. There's a heap of different things you can do. You know, you can use it like we were using the tyres that are dug into the ground. So I might say change there, now come around here, and I want him to go to the other side of it. So it's a bit of a marker for you. You don't have the problem like we do with the tyres that are dug in the ground where you're picking your hands up all the time. So if you find that your horse is overreactive to having, he'd like to stand on that. If you find your horse is overreactive to you moving your hands when you're doing the other tyre work, you know, do some of this. Where you go, okay, we're just going to go through here. Now let's see, sorry Bob. Let's see if I can get him to stand. Now, and it's very soft, we've had a lot of rain. You know, if you know, I put a lot of time into this, I could train him to put all 4 feet on this tyre, but I haven't done that with this horse, okay? So you guys can all see he has actually got his feet on the rubber. He doesn't really want to put his feet on the dirt because he knows it's soft, but I'll get him to walk over it anyway. He might jump over it, he might walk over it. Good boy. Here we go. Oh, Bob, you're a champion. Good boy. So there you go. If you want to test if your horse will lunge straight, if you can move his feet, you know, there's the classic example. Put him over one and see if you can then keep him going, go over the second one. You know, you can't ask for much more than that. And, you know, and this is the thing. All of these things that we have gone through today in this little demonstration, they have all been stuff that has cost basically nothing. Like I said, you know, sure, we have a bridge and we have a gate and you know, but we've gone and bought stuff for those things, you know. You know, this is just using literally imagination. And like with these tyres, the classic with these is we started with one of these small ones and then someone gave me a second small one, so I used it. But then I went, oh, that doesn't quite work, I need a bigger one. So that's when I got the bigger one. So you might, you know, find that you want 2 big ones, you know. Go for your life. You do what works for you, and you can create a course that's a lot of fun that hasn't cost you anything.